Hello, welcome to this YouTube transmission. It's 1:44 on the time, and I was just listening to something else, and it sparked the inkling to start recording. The person I was listening to mentioned marriage. And then I looked at the time and it was 1:44, and I had written down today for the next YouTube transmission that I wanted to record 144,000. I know that number is significant for a lot of people who feel connected to like higher ascension mechanics, planetary grid work, what some of us are calling like hiero-gamic union or divine union. Of course, it always starts with the self and the weaving and the essence of spirit and matter, ourselves and whatever you want to refer to it as, divine spirit. And then, of course, the I'll say externalized version of that, in literal union, again, with the self, maybe with another person, however it comes through for you. Etheric wings have been a topic. The consciousness or archetype of the representation of Archangel Gabriel. I talk about this in a different YouTube transmission or Patreon, one of them, about the significance of etheric wings and the connection to the consciousness expansion and anchoring in the original angelic crystalline blueprint, especially in the human template or humanoid template, and in reference to the organic living light grids, the matrices. So yeah, with all of that, I will definitely be doing an overflow on Patreon. I'm not exactly sure how this is going to weave together, but for the YouTube portion, I did want to share a dream I had the other night. And then I actually already recorded a YouTube, a Patreon overflow. By the way, I do have a fan on, so you may hear a little white noise in the background. Yeah, I was just getting ready to actually go out and get some food, but I just I was going to record this later, and I just literally got like a zing ping to start recording. So here we are. Yeah, so I wanted to share a dream that I had and sort of weave in some of the higher ascension mechanics that could be symbolically weaving through the dream, as well as anything that comes up for, just any sort of current dynamics that you may be feeling connected to. And a little sort of side note, I just posted on YouTube yesterday or today, I can't even remember, just this quick transmission message. I think I titled it, I changed the title, so I think it's now like Creative Essence or something like this. Words, dream, interp, and transmission, something like that. And it's really funny because I was talking about like a different dream I had and sort of like raw creative expression that and the importance of this. And the last few days I actually was experiencing, mostly yesterday, this, I almost felt like I want to say like paralyzed in indecision. And just like, I used to live my life like that so often. Like I used to be someone who was extremely indecisive. yeah, I always like say to my friends and family who are still in my life, like I used to say, like, I'm so sorry. I must have been so annoying. And I can't stop quoting the show, The Good Place, because I don't know, so many things keep coming up about that. And one of the characters, Chidi Adigonye, is like so indecisive. That's like one of his things that I could always relate to that. So if you saw the show, you'll know what I mean. But yeah, interesting. I'm seeing one of the clips in the show where they show how he dies on Earth. It's a show like technically about the afterlife and Earth, and he basically was like so indecisive and couldn't make a decision that he was like stuck in one place, and an air conditioner like literally fell on his head and killed him because he like couldn't make a decision and move. Anyway, so yeah, death could be the death card in tarot. Transformation. I just posted something on Instagram today about like a lot of quick moving change that seems to be coming up. And if it hasn't yet, like you may be coming, stepping into this, because sometimes if I bring through a collective energy, it's like something that's happening, of course, in the present moment that I'm bringing it through, but also like when you find it. So, or it may start happening soon. So yeah, there could be like another, I'll say like version of what we call like an ego death, or just shedding of a layer. You could also be feeling called to really like call back your essence, call back your power. Like when people say, like if we have like fragmented aspects, there could be this period, whether it's conscious, subconscious, or both, of like shamanic journeying and or this came through like maybe a month or two ago. Soul retrieval, things like this. Closing and collapsing timelines could be significant, or just things that you may be working on or feeling called to in the near future. Again, some of you, it may be more like conscious. Some of you may be doing this and being like not even asking, but it's just like happening for you. And this may be like validation, or maybe helping you understand what you're going through. It will be different for each of you. And there's something about like trusting your gut instinct. Like I'm seeing like animals. I'm seeing like a jaguar, panther, a lot of feline beings. Lyra can be significant. Excuse me, releasing through the throat. There's definitely, the last few weeks I've been feeling this really intense throat and mind's eye expansion. So that connection again to like radical authenticity, raw expression, things like this, visions, dreams, headaches, third eye tingling, releasing mucus has been also a thing, shedding skin, things like this can be happening. And I did talk about that in a different transmission, the shedding of the skin. So there could be, it was something about the next octave of consciousness, I think is what I said. Yeah. Okay, so these are just some things that could be coming up. I was also talking about on Instagram and the YouTube community page today about like metaphorical and literal explosions that are going on right now. I don't mean to laugh. I mean, some of them are, I send my love, of course. But yeah, there's this just explosive energy right now. And in the Patreon overflow that I posted today for the last YouTube transmission, Sundial Spiral, something like this, I do mention like just maybe some of the more, I'll say, shadowy aspects to certain types of, I don't think I called it this, but like Tantra practices, and how, yeah, just like safety around boundaries and things like this coming up in that type of world. I didn't go too deep into it, but that's something that I did want to start talking about. And if anyone's interested or has something to say or any questions, let me know and I can go deeper with that. I just wanted to sort of open the dialogue to that because I've had some experiences the last 2 weeks a little bit in the world of Tantra, and that just has been coming up. I actually started doing something like Tantra massages, Tantric journeys, etc. So that is maybe something I may be adding into my offerings more, and just having conversations about it as well. So I just wanted to add that in. And of course, the idea of Tantra, there's so much. I'll need a separate recording to talk about that. And of course, the Western practices of Tantra and the Eastern, more mystical and ancient teachings and how they're weaving together, and anything, the shadow and light aspects of that. But for the hiero-gamic union that I opened with for this recording, I feel like it's just naturally weaving itself in through that. So okay. There was a little bit about the grids. And your eating patterns can feel a bit erratic. I just realized that your relationship to and with food may be going through some I heard renovations, demolitions. I don't know, maybe that's someone's actually doing that with a property, or maybe that's something you do for a living. It will be different for everyone, but there feels like there's this change in relationship to food. Lots of energy center references. The lower chakra or energy centers can also be going through these purges and expansions, clearing out. And I was saying that, yesterday I was feeling just a part of my old self come back for a second, indecision, questioning myself so much. I was so hungry and I could not just go get something to eat. I literally wound up not eating until 9 p.m. because I was I just can't even pick something to eat. To be fair, I'm in a new place and I don't really know where anything is and nothing seemed open, but still it was an energy. I was just whoa, what is going on? And I really tried my best to honor my experience instead of beating myself up for falling back into that, even though it was less than a day. It gave me some time today to reflect back. One, to know how much I've grown. God, I can't believe I used to live like that all the time. So if you're someone who experiences that, I wasn't laughing at you. I was just laughing at myself for a second. I totally understand. And it doesn't have to just be indecision or, mistrusting yourself. That's just one, the way it came through for me. It can be different for each one of you, but just an older pattern, especially with authority figures, maybe father lineage stuff, or the masculine aspect of you feels it's going through some sort of very, and the collective masculine, I'll say, polarity is going through this. I just felt something in my right hip, maybe right hip, seeing the ribs, but more the right hip. So you can be having tight hips, or maybe that's something you've been working on for a long time, of releasing, any guilt, shame, stuff like this is coming up. There's honey can be significant, working with honey. Colors gold, white, golden light, yellow, seeing dandelion. Wish fulfillment energy, 9 of Cups. And tarot seems to be highlighted. It's interesting because it's balancing out independence and codependence type of thing. So wherever maybe you lean towards in one way, and it can be different for each area of your life. Maybe you're really independent in one area and another area you tend to be maybe a little less. There's something about seeing 3 of Pentacles in tarot, so working together, collaborations. So again, something about healing father wounds and or masculine collective wounds, and my my dad, I think I shared this on the Patreon, was in my dream last night, who transitioned in 2017 out of this earth plane. So, and I was feeling his energy a lot. And whenever I have dreams of him, yeah. So someone, if you have like a grandfather or father in spirit, they may be reaching out to you in some way, or maybe you've just been feeling them around. I mentioned the Archangel Gabriel consciousness or archetype, and now I'm seeing, I call them archetypes because there's so much, personification. There's so many ways you can have your own connection to some of this. So that's why I say that. And also the Archangel Michael frequency, all about like, truth, and it's always like presented with a sword, like Ace of Swords in tarot, new beginning in communication, expression, clarity. Yeah, so things like this are coming through, and JWTRP. I just heard those initials. Okay, let's see what else. L. There is I'm sipping water, if you hear that in the background. Oh, minerals, seawater. I will talk more about that another time, what I want to say about seawater, but these things are just coming up. The word reinvention has been coming through the last day or so. You may be like feeling, as I was talking about before, like the shedding, like re-getting to know yourself in different ways. Maybe like I said, your food habits can be going through some changes. And if anyone has like, a relationship to food where that's a sensitive subject, like I honor that. And, I'm here if you have any questions or want to reach out or anything like that. I've gone through many different types of relationships with food. So yeah, that's like a side note, but just in case anyone needs extra support in that, I'm releasing any shame around it because I know what that feels like. So yeah. There was something else. This is going in so many different directions that I did not expect. There was another aspect that I was just feeling. About like seawater and minerals. Yeah, one of the things I learned from someone who I was just staying with, allegedly, I didn't do further research. And if I already mentioned this in a different transmission, my apologies. I always try my best not to repeat myself, but sometimes it happens. And like I said, I need to do some fact checking, but apparently if you know, please confirm, amniotic fluid in the sac during pregnancy is like equivalent, like very similar to seawater. So of course, like minerals, and salt these days can be extremely like diluted and not in its like natural mineral state. So mineral rich salt specifically, in different ways of getting minerals. Actually, I believe Blue Emerald Alchemy, the company that I make my tinctures with ORMUS from, and I have an affiliate link with them that's in the section below for a discount if you use my code. And I believe they do sell, they call it like Dead Sea Ormus, I think. That's like mineral rich, I'm pretty sure. So if that's something that calls to you, I can definitely vouch for them. I think they're really wonderful. So yeah. Okay, what else? Back to the phrase hiero-gamic union has been coming up. Ooh, releasing through the throat. Excuse me. I feel like I'm like, this energy is really fast. Like the last YouTube transmission I did, I felt like the energy was so like paced and almost like slow. And this feels like I can't get the words out fast enough. Okay. Let's see. So I wrote something down before I get to the dream. And Okay, butterflies. I've been seeing so many butterflies, particularly black and yellow and orange, but it doesn't have to be. Moths can be significant. Swans have been coming up so much lately. Yeah. Oh, I heard someone say, so I kept talking about spiral, and in my last transmission I posted on YouTube, it was the spiral sundial transmission, and I heard someone on YouTube that I was listening to. It was crazy. It was right after, I think it was right after I recorded that. She was talking about, I don't remember, I think she calls herself Transcendence Tarot. She has an accent, I believe it's a British accent or something similar. She is very tuned in, and she was saying the spiral representing faster brain waves, which is interesting because I talk a lot about like the hemi-syncing and so many other layers of this spiral symbolism. So I loved that, and I wrote it down. Let's see. I kept seeing DNA. Like I saw DNA on a license plate, and then I saw like the double helix symbolism a few times. So this absolutely feels like this next DNA activation, crystalline DNA activation, expansion, integration, remembrance, cellular memory, water holding memory, and I did record a transmission a while back hatching Hellllo codes, crystalline Hellllo codes. Oh my God, that was so hard to get out. Yeah, so there could be messages in there for you, or maybe you, only if you feel called, of course, or maybe you listened to that recently. Yeah, also the number 1144 has been coming up quite a bit. And like I was talking about the 144,000 number. Let's see. Because I'm actually feeling guided to look up 1144. Okay, angel number 1144 is a sign from the universe that you are connected to the divine and can create your own life. I like the word co-create. It can also mean that you should focus on your spirituality and make positive changes. It can represent stability, balance, self-creation, and new beginnings. And it's funny because I was talking about like the idea of balancing out like independence, you know, things like this. Okay, let's see what else. I have been seeing the number 307, which I always connect to Metatron or the Metatronic grids. So some people say there's like these, well, in higher ascension mechanics, there's like the reversal Metatronic grid, which we can call like the inorganic grids or artificial. And then the swan keeps coming up, and according to Indigo Angel, who does a lot of, she's like a pioneer in grid work, she talks about the swan grids, which also sort of kind of like represent the future grids, or the 22 strands of DNA. That's a whole other thing if that's something you're interested in. I do talk more about that on Patreon, and I'll probably go deeper with that. Or the Cygnus constellation. You can feel connected to Cygnus, the swan. And stargazing can be significant. Crystalline star grids. Okay, let's see what else is going on. Okay, and I wrote something down. I actually read this today on Patreon for the sundial spiral transmission, but it was just like a stream of consciousness, so it may not make like literal sense, but I was also reading from the Planetary Grid Worker Ascension Glossary, which I posted under the last YouTube transmission, but I didn't read all of it, so I may continue reading from this. I should have marked like what I already read, so I don't even know what I already read, but I'm just going to read pieces that I feel called to, and if it's repeating, I'll just trust that maybe it needs to be said again. Okay, so I wrote this. 144,000 grid dove, although it was, sometimes I forget English words when I'm, typo. It said dive, but I meant to write dove and swan grid overlays. And the dove grid, they say, represents like freedom codes. So it's interesting that dive came out because, you know, swan dive. So that could be specific for someone. Yeah, something about embodying grace, giving yourself grace. Okay, then I wrote from I can't say this word today. Pythagorean? No. Pythagorean. Am I saying that wrong? It sounds wrong. 9 to next grid belay octave. Starting ... New archetype call to architects, blueprinters to take what we have. And then I referenced the dream that I had last night with my dad, where I was preparing food for myself and then for him and then my sister, but all the food was like already cooked, and I was taking what we already had and basically repurposing it and like tailoring each thing for whatever their specific likes were. So yeah, something about repurposing, and again, food is coming through. And then I wrote dream and rebuild in all ways star forts, which I did post a link about star forts in the Patreon Overflow Sundial comment section if that's something that interests you. Coming back, being re-encrypted with past, present, and future codes. And that's been coming up so much lately about like past, present, future, which I'll get into more later. And then I wrote movers starting to home base and then flip-flop. So like people who've been like maybe moving around a lot or feeling a bit more nomadic may actually start this year, whenever you're finding this, to like maybe have a little bit more stability or a home base. It doesn't mean you'll, stop completely if that's something you want, but there's something about that. And then maybe if you're someone who's been in the same place for a long time, you may feel called to like, travel, move, something like this. So flip-flopping. And the word paradiso was coming through, which can translate to heaven, state of great happiness, a place where God or gods live, and where people go when they die. And I was talking about this also in Patreon Overflow today. Lots of similar things coming through. Devachan, Shambhala, these cannot be significant. I'll probably go into more detail about some of this in the Patreon Overflow. And I think I've talked about these topics before, actually, on Patreon. So, yeah, I was just guided to read that. And, the idea of architect and blueprinters, this can be like literal, like as a job in this realm, and or like architects of, co-creating, and the blueprinters soul group and things like this are really starting to come forth more in what I've been pulling through. So if that's something you feel connected to, stay tuned. But the Pythagoras number 9 that I wrote down, so I watched something like a while ago. I think it was from Teresa Bullard, and I may have mentioned this before, and I wish I remembered details, but basically it was talking about how like our architecture of our lands are essentially, at least in the States, I don't know how far this goes, are built from this like 1 to 9 number system of the Pythagorean, why can't I say that word right now, of the theory of Pythagoras. Which I forgot about this. I was just talking about this Pythagoras theory a few weeks ago with the person I was staying with in Siancán in Mexico, and it was coming through. Now I'm being reminded Oh, my throat. Yeah, there's definitely some, whew. Warm, I'm seeing warm water, warm lemon water, warm honey lemon water. There's something about warm water. Yeah, let's see. And so I remember this presentation from, I think it was Dr. Teresa Bullard, she calls herself, of how like limiting the 1 to 9 system has been, and like over the next few years there would be like this expansion in the way that we like literally create architecture and our systems, are like street grids. Like often when I talk about grids, I talk about like ley lines, and this is like literal like, you know, structures of like our streets and roads, etc. So yeah, if you feel connected to this in some way, there could be, this won't be for everyone, but there could be like a call to feel like to go into like altered states of consciousness and bring through memories about how we can start. I mean, people are already starting this, but like if you feel connected to that, yeah, just like downloading different ways of uploading, downloading, of literally like new ways of forming structures, essentially, and based in a more expansive, I guess I'll say multidimensional approach. I think that's why star forts were coming through. You know, like a lot of us are feeling called to not live in a house that just has like 4 walls. Well, I guess I'm not good at the amount of walls, but maybe more circular structures or sacred geometric shapes encoded. And these are just a few examples coming through. Like I could talk about this all day, but you know, I'll just trust that as I continue creating these recordings, like more and more will come through about it, and those of us who feel called will come together and start talking more about it. And if you're someone who's already like really invested or involved in this somehow, like please feel free to share, because I am always wanting to like dive deeper into that. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I wanted to read the planet grid shifts from the Ascension Glossary. Currently, the planetary body is undergoing a space-time reorganization that ripples out many strange anomalies that influence the quantic field. That reminds me of the Mandela effect. And I'm not sure if I talked about this recently, but I had one of the Mandela effect experiences come through like maybe a month ago. And I meant to talk about it, and I honestly, I'm not sure if I did, but it was around the Powerpuff Girls, or Powder Puff Girls, if you remember what that is. And I didn't know that was one of them, and I couldn't remember which one it was, and I looked it up, and it's a Mandela effect thing. So yeah, that could be coming up for someone. The quantum field, also referred to as inner space-time, is rippling these effects into the unmanifest layers of the core manifestation template, otherwise known as the blueprint matrices. Oh my God, exactly. That make up the layers of morphogenetic fields in the earth. I've been hearing morphogenetic field all day long, and I knew it was going to come up somewhere. Like, it's been coming through so strongly. Grid workers may feel the blueprint structure in the planetary field transforming completely with the shifting timelines. And this feels like something very different, extraordinary, and even bizarre is occurring in the earth fields. It feels like it is a new design that is encompassing our consciousness with the necessity to learn a foreign language, and yet it feels distantly familiar and vastly powerful. The blueprint alterations impact the dark matter template, or the Rashabadi instruction sets, and this appears to have direct consequences to altering and changing the earth elements and the elemental structure of the earth body. Yeah, well, with that, I'm going to shift right into the dream that I had. And then I will probably let this transmission close out, and then come to the Overflow Patreon. Okay, so there was this Oracle deck that I used to have on my phone. I don't even remember the name, but one of the cards was about hiero-gamic union, and I think the author was Cassidy something, and it talked about different signs that you can see, synchronicities and dreams that you could have, symbols representing hiero-gamic union. And I don't know why I remember this, but it was like one of them was dreaming of wires, weddings, and I think something about color, but I don't remember that one. Okay. So the last few weeks, and I've gone through different phases of this where like I'll have different periods of like, I guess, deeper weaving of hiero-gamic union, if you want to call it. It's come through, in like many layers, and so, this could be new, at least consciously for you, or this could be like, I don't know, your third round or deepening or integration, Okay, so let's see. I'm just going to where I wrote down about the dream. So over the last like few weeks, I dreamt of a wedding, and then I dreamt of so when my mom and my stepdad got married, they did like a sand type of ceremony. It was really nice, actually. And in the dream that I had, this someone I know, he like represents that divine masculine energy for me personally, and he was like basically eating rainbow sand in the dream. I'll get more into the specifics, and it just reminded me of this like idea of hiero-gamic union. And for some reason, of course, I kept being taken to Peru, and the what are they called? My brain is forgetting things right now. Peru's Rainbow Mountain. I don't know why that feels so significant, but it does. Or just, rainbow sand feels significant. I'm not sure why Peru is coming through in the moment, but to me it feels something connected to the movement of the kundalini of the planet and some of the light grid templates that are being anchored in South and Central America. And right now I'm getting specifically Peru. Like the dragon lines that run through there. I would love to actually go deeper with that at some point, so I may dive into that more. Anyway, so the dream. Okay, so it was like a story, and it was very like chronological. So in the beginning of the dream, the guy for me who represents, this aspect, I needed somewhere to stay in the dream, and someone named Rosa, who I think I went to school, like court reporting school with her like years ago. I can't even remember if that was her name, but she was in it for some reason. And I had just went through my old things that I had written down like a long time ago, and one of the roads I didn't mean to say roads, so that could be significant for someone. One of the words I wrote down was sub rosa. So multiple layers here. One, you could be like going through or finding things that you kind of like wrote down a while ago, like dreams, visions, downloads, creative projects, whatever it is, and it could be resurfacing again. But also, sub rosa is a Latin phrase which denotes secrecy or confidentiality. Like very high priestess or high priest energy. The rose has an ancient history as a symbol of secrecy. The sub rosa aspect that I wrote down was coming through potentially as like an offering that I was trying to create. I might get more into that at another time, but it was connected to this idea of hiero-gamic union and Lemurian codes and epoch, the Lemurian epoch, integrating like Lemurian and Atlantis aspects and why they're coming up so strongly and things like this. So yeah, I just wanted to sort of weave that in a bit because it seems to be pretty prevalent. Also, there was this deck I used to have, an oracle deck, and there was this card that I keep seeing also, Lemurian Egg of Light. It's in the, I think, Lemurian Star Child oracle deck. Feel free to Google it, or if you have that deck, maybe there's some messages in there for you. But anyway, I love that deck. And hummingbirds can be significant. I'm seeing hummingbirds. But so in the stream, and yeah, so I'm in this apartment, and all of a sudden I hear there were like multiple roommates, and one of them was talking about this one roommate that lived kind of like in the corner of the house, and they called him a stoner and a pothead, and he does love pot, the person I'm talking about. So and they were just saying like not that nice things about him, and it turned out to be I knew him, and I was like, oh my God. So I didn't say anything, and I got so excited that he was there, and which is like very unlike me. I like ran into his room to be like, oh my God, I can't believe you're here. Like, how, I didn't even know you lived here. And he had a girl in his bed, and I was like, oh my God, like I am so sorry. I didn't say anything. I just ran out. And not long after that, he left to walk the girl out, and she was like very, very tiny and had long blonde hair. I don't know who she was. Like, it was just a girl in the dream. But I'm sure the symbolism may come through of what that represents. And it seemed, she was very dressed up, like they were going to an event. But then, you know, she left, so it was like she spent the night there. Like, it seemed like he met her at this event, and then she left. So to me, it was kind of representing like karmic connections. And when we say karmic, you know, the word karma just translates to action. So like, sort of, it felt like it was like a very surface, shallow connection, and it seemed to be representing that type of thing. So someone here could be maybe like going through their own relationship to more surface level type of interactions, and we need those too, you know, and sometimes they're a part of creation. I'm not saying that they're bad, but there's something about like about this coming up, especially for the masculine polarity. And then it will be different for each person of like where you're at in that cycle. And then there was also an aspect once he got up and walked her out, like 3 or 4 of his friends came, and they were about to go out, and they were just like so rude, and, you know, seemed like they were like giving him a hard time. I don't know. No. It was like that type of vibe, you know. And I remember I said, I ran up and I was like, I am so sorry that I like walked into your room. And of course, like in dreams, there's so much symbolism here. Like, it would take me like so long to interpret all of it. So feel free to like share things that are coming through for you. But opening the door for me, like, that can represent so many things. Doors can represent like portals. They can represent, you know, like opening into a new beginning, letting down walls and like stepping into more, you know, the next layer of vulnerability, heart awakening. I don't know why I'm getting that, but that's what I'm getting. And when I went up to him, I was like, yeah, I'm so sorry. I barged in your room. I was just so excited to see you. Like, I'm really sorry. And he was like, it was so weird. He looked at me and he made this like, he was like the whole dream. He was super stoned face, like showing no emotion, like very, almost like, yeah, like very King of Swords, just like showing nothing. And then he got this really intense smile on his face, and he looked at me, and all he said was, 44 on the timer, all is fair in love and more. And then I just Googled that, and it says, there is no limit to what's necessary to achieve our ends. Okay, so that was the first half of the dream. There was more, but basically also like, yeah, the masculine polarity, again, polarity, energy, not necessarily person, could be going through like just some of the people in their life, or people, places, things, behaviors, patterns that maybe are coming up for review that aren't serving, you know. And then in the second half of the dream, I was pregnant with this person's baby, and I really needed something. And the things that I needed in the dream were so weird, but I needed something, and I just like did not want to ask. I was like, I don't want to ask, but like I just felt like I really, really needed this. And I said in the dream, like, I really hate to ask this of you, but like I really need. And then I needed him to, I think, what was one of them? To make out. I really wanted to kiss. Hold on, let me see. Right, eating colored sand. I needed him to eat colored sand and to dance. And there was like a stage. And he was like so happy that I asked him. He was like, of course, I would love to do this. And he was like so happy. I wrote down so happy to oblige. Oblige. Oblige, am I saying that right? I'm just looking at what I wrote down. Okay, yeah. And then, so he did all the things. I remember the colored sand in the dream, like, that he was eating was so vibrant. Like, the color was just so, so vibrant. And then we started to talk about how the baby that was coming through was a Neptune-initiated baby into Uranus, or Uranus, whatever you want to call it. And I wrote down some things, like it could be representing, of course, like birthing consciousness, next octave of consciousness. In anthroposophy, you know, the solar system is represented as like initiated. Each planet has like a different initiation or level of initiation in the spiritual hierarchies and consciousness. Like I said, I'm sure more will come through the Patreon overflow, and deeper layers will continue to reveal themselves. But there's just so much that came through. I actually did do a YouTube transmission called New Jupiter, so there could be messages in there for you as well. So yeah, essentially it seemed like there was this releasing of, I mean, literal, you know, marriage and babies, if that's something, like it could be literal too, but also so much symbology there. You know, ancestral pattern, healing, releasing, cellular detox, releasing, all of these different, you know, things that we have been sort of talking about. I just saw like an orb above my head. I don't know if it was really an orb. It was like an energy that moved. Yeah, and some of these like ancestral patterns, if you want to call them, can be like hyper-independence, codependency, you know, over controlling or chasing in a way that, instead of like more just like trusting, and issues with receiving, over giving, jealousy is a big one that's been coming up. Immaturity around sex, addiction. These are just some things that were coming up. Yeah. Ooh, I just got like, my head literally just felt like it was being like pulled up and like squeezed together. Whoa. And now I'm seeing, I'm seeing it look, I see this energy pattern. I've been seeing it for years. The best way I can describe it is it looks like the I Ching, but it's very, it moves. It has its own, like, it expands, it contracts. It almost actually, if I let it get really big, it almost looks like when you look at a double helix. I'm just realizing this on with DNA, and how it's like you can see images where it like moves. It actually represents, it looks like the I Ching, but it also, in certain angles, it like I said, it like moves, and then it can represent like the DNA double helix. So I just realized that right now. And one day my friend and I were channeling for each other, and I was so curious about this, and I was like, what do you get for this? And she was like, oh my God, it's your, what does she call it? Your home portal, or home frequency portal. And of course the word home really, it always reminds me of like the unconditional love template, which can manifest through different realms, dimensions, including this one, galaxies, multiverse, omniverse, metaverse, etc. So that just came through, and I'm seeing it right now. So this really feels like such a beautiful like homecoming in a way, or at least probably one of many. And this idea of hiero-gamic union, and I just felt like I needed to take a huge breath. Honestly, I could go on for so long because there's seriously so much coming through, but I will continue this on Patreon Overflow, and I'm sure themes of this will continue unfolding in future transmissions. And if you have anything at all to say, to share, anything more specific you would like to hear about, I'd love to hear what you have to say. And I think that's all for now. Thank you.